Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board! Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! Welcome in, everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates. All of our independents from coast to coast as well. Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, Oceanic, and WOW Cable Television affiliates in select markets, as well as Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets, about 550,000 rooms from coast to coast. Everybody also watching and listening in on streaming media, even our friends on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Thanks for joining us over there. I'm going to jump into Major League Baseball right at the very top here. And, of course, the pennant races are heating up. It doesn't seem like it in some of these divisions, but they are. Albeit the Phillies are 7 games ahead of the New York Mets, because recently we had a conversation. They were just 7 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves. Those two are probably going to flip-flop for the balance of the season. It's a little bit closer than what it looks like. Yes, the Phillies are a little bit better, but they're not that much better. They have weapons, but remember, Atlanta has a lot of players that are hurt. The Mets are a very streaky team. They're in the middle of a 9-1 run right now in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Braves are 5-5, and the Phillies are 7-3. This National League East race is closer than what it appears. It looks like the Phillies are going to probably win this race, but I have to say that the Mets and the Braves are certainly both making a case to make the postseason. So if you watch how the Phillies have been winning, I mean, they have been the cardiac kids. It's not so much what you've seen out in Arizona with the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks have really been taking care of business. We'll get to them in a minute. But it seems as though the Phillies have been sputtering about, and in the same way as the Dodgers. They have a big lead as well, but they've been sputtering about. And so as you watch the Phillies, you say, well, okay, where are they strong? Where are they weak? Look, they have plenty of bats. Their starting rotation is very good. The bullpen is very suspect. And when you think of championship baseball, look, you can pile up 100 wins, whatever, in the regular season, but in the postseason, the best teams play the best teams. So in the regular season, the better teams are doing what? They're getting well against the bottom teams, right? In this particular case, it's the Miami Marlins, who are, 36 games under 500, which, of course, that's no match for my beloved White Sox. But the point is, there's a couple of bad teams in this division. And when I say bad, I'm not really going to say the Nationals are bad, because they have a lot of talent. And boy, those guys can get up and play anybody. And frankly, the Marlins can too. It's just the Marlins, in my opinion, they have terrible, terrible leadership all the way up to Peter Bendix down. Just keep getting rid of players and players. But the Phillies are not as good as the record appears. At 86-58, in my opinion, they're not nearly that good. Now take a look at the National League Central. It's the Brewers have opened up an 8.5 game lead over the Cubs and 10 on the Cardinals. Are the Brewers that good? Listen, they're up 8.5, and they're only 5-5 in their last 10. The Cubs are 6-4 in their last 10. The Cardinals are 6-4. The Reds are 6-4. The Pirates are 6-4. And really, the National League Central, like the American League Central, are two of the better divisions in baseball that nobody's talking about. They say, well, it's the Central. They don't have the sex appeal that the Phillies do or the Dodgers do or teams like that, or even the Padres. The Padres are a very in vogue team right now. But if you look at the National League Central, you say, the Brewers just keep on winning. And frankly, if you put the Brewers head-to-head with the Phillies, the Brewers would only sit 2 games behind the Phillies. Now, that's pretty damn good. So, as I look at it, the Brewers are just as good, but I do believe that the Brewers have some chemistry that the Phillies don't. Look, the Phillies have a bunch of big names on their team. The Brewers have a bunch of lunch pail guys, and it's the lunch pail guys that come to work every day. There's not a whole bunch of egos there. No, these guys are out there just doing their thing, and that's what happens in this National League Central. Even the Reds are 5 games under 500, but they're not mathematically eliminated. The Reds are a very streaky team, kind of like right now the New York Mets are. I think the Mets are peaking a little bit early. And even the Pirates are in last place, and they're 8 games under, but they haven't been eliminated. So going out to the West, you say, well, geez, there's the Dodgers. Well, the Dodgers have the same exact record as the Phillies, and of course the Brewers are just a couple of games back of the Phillies. So this whole home field advantage thing throughout the playoffs, at least in the National League, that has not been settled. The Padres and the Diamondbacks are sort of on the heels of the Dodgers. Dodgers have been playing mediocre ball. Actually, the D-backs are 4-6 in their last 10. The Padres are 5-5 in their last 10. But the Diamondbacks bring an element of small ball to the table that the other teams in the National League don't bring. Well, I would actually argue that maybe Atlanta brings a little bit of that, and probably the Brewers bring some of that. And that's why I have the Diamondbacks picked all the way back to spring training. The Diamondbacks getting back to the World Series and actually winning the World Series over Cleveland. Yes, it's a very unpopular pick, but that's okay. My concern meter is on 0. But looking at the National League West, again, here you have the Dodgers up by 5.5 over the Padres, 6 over the Diamondbacks. And those teams, again, have a very good shot or a realistic shot of beating the Dodgers because the Dodgers have a bullpen issue outside of Michael Kopech. I don't think the Dodgers are very good at holding on to a lead, which it seems like the Dodgers have to score 7-8 runs to win a game. Now, even the Giants at 2 games under 500 have not been eliminated. So let's take a closer look at that wild card race. And you say, maybe this guy's full of beans, but maybe he's not. The wild card race stands as it is with the Padres and Diamondbacks are basically 1.5 up over the other clubs. The New York Mets sit in third, the last wild card spot, because they're streaking right now. They're the hottest team in the National League. Now, the Braves are still playing steady ball. They're only 1 game back of the New York Mets, and the Cubs are 5 games back. So when you look at the New York Mets, you say, well, all right, these guys are playing pretty good ball. All right, and I'm okay with that. And the Cubs actually have been playing pretty good ball too, and they've been beating the Dodgers. So that's not so bad. But when you look at the New York Metropolitans and you say, well, what do they have coming up? Well, it's not so much what you have coming up. It's the old where have you been and what have you done for me lately? When I look at the Mets and their schedule coming up, I say, they don't have the easiest schedule coming up because the Mets, yes, they have to hit the road and play at Toronto for a couple. They've got to play at Philadelphia for a 3-game set. Then they're hosting the Nationals, which are a very streaky team. Oh, and then, by the way, they have the Phillies for 4 games. And they close out at Atlanta. So if you think the Mets are going to stand in that spot, I got to tell you, I don't really think they're going to stay in that spot. I really don't. Now, if you look at the Braves, for example, they've got a couple at Washington. They have the Dodgers for 4 at home. And the Braves historically have done very well against the Dodgers. Then they travel to Cincinnati, who Cincinnati just doesn't seem to have any pitching. So they should be able to win 2 out of 3 there. And then the Braves travel to Miami for a 3-game set before closing out at home against the Mets. Although the Braves sit 1 game behind the Mets have a very bumpy road And let's face it, those two teams, as I see it, are going to flip-flop. And when you ask yourself about the Philadelphia Phillies, well, geez, what about those guys? Now, we know that they have to play the Mets. But the Phillies, for the rest of the season, as you look at their schedule, of course, they've got to host the Rays for a couple more games. It's a very tough team to play. And, of course, the New York Mets come in for a few. But then the Phillies travel to Milwaukee, the Central Division leaders. So they've got a 3-game set at Milwaukee. Then they have to travel to New York to play the Mets, of course, for that 4-game set. And then they have to host the pesky Cubs. So will the Phillies hold on to that league? I'm going to give the advantage, believe it or not, to the Atlanta Braves to potentially, I know this may sound a little crazy, but I think the Braves are going to dethrone the Mets from the 3rd wild card spot. But the Braves actually got a shot. Yes, they actually have a shot, as I see it, to do what? To potentially at least come close or possibly win the National League East. I know you're saying, that guy's out of his mind. Maybe he is out of his mind, and that's okay. But as I see it, that race is not over. No, and then these wild card races, you think about the Cubs. The Cubs are playing very good ball right now. And the Cubs, do they have a better schedule than the Mets? Well, we'll take a look at that when we come back from break. Right here on the Sports Circus in just a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC Sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from fabulous Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, right here off of Las Vegas Boulevard. Boy, what a great location, folks. If you've never been here, boy, you're missing out. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Alrighty, and a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends and independents, by the way, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome in everybody else up and down the West Coast, all the way through the Mountain States, through Chicagoland, down through Texas, over to Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves. We're talking about the Braves in this segment, last segment. And also our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY, over in the northwest corner, hiding out over there in Dallas, Georgia. Boy, I got to tell you, folks, this is one of those places like, no, not Dallas, Texas, Dallas, Georgia. Really nice over there. People are so nice. In fact, we are very fortunate to be on the air on 99.1 FM. And of course, they always get a nice round of applause from us for the years of support. And, of course, the audience in that region as well. And a big hello to our friends up and down the East Coast from Miami all the way up to New York and Boston and beyond. All right. Major League Baseball, the wild card standings in the National League is where we left off. The Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Phillies are your three top teams in the National League. But the wild card, we were talking a little bit about how the Mets have sort of a tough schedule. The Phillies do as well. And, you know, the Atlanta Braves sit in a pretty good position to overtake the New York Mets. They have a favorable schedule over the Mets to take that 3 slot. But what about some of these other clubs? Now, the Cubs happen to sit in the 5th position, 5 games back. And I'm not a Cub fan, I can assure you of that. But looking at their schedule, they have a reasonable schedule. And if any of those teams really falter, I mean, look, they need some help. If a couple of those teams really falter, they could sneak in there. The Cubs have a couple more against the Dodgers, who they've played very, very well against. And then they travel to Denver to play the Colorado Rockies, which is essentially the doormat of the National League West. And then they play the doormat, well, one of the doormats anyway, of the American League West and the Oakland A's, soon to be the Sacramento A's, which at some point will become what? They will become the Las Vegas Athletics. Pick a city here. So anyway, then they're hosting the A's for a few, and then they're hosting the Nats for 4. So this is a pretty easy stretch, and then they close out at Philadelphia, who they just played very well against recently. I mean, look, the Cubs actually stand a realistic shot to make a little bit of noise. So if you ask yourself, you say, well, you know, they're 4 games over 500. They're playing .514 ball, but they're playing consistent, and all they have to do is maintain consistent ball, because something tells me that the New York Mets are going to fall off. They're playing way above their heads right now, and I think the Padres are a very opportunistic team. Let's take a look at their remaining schedule. They are very opportunistic, but they have no cakewalk remaining either, although the Padres currently sit 1.5 in the number 1 wild card slot, when the Diamondbacks sit 1. They're 1.5 up, and the Diamondbacks are just a half game behind them. When you look at the standings or better yet, the schedule for the Padres, look, they have a couple of more games in Seattle against arguably the best pitching staff in baseball. No cakewalk there. And in fact, the Mariners right now are playing for pride. Then they have to travel to the Giants, which is no easy task. The Giants play very, very well at, it used to be Pac Bell Park, AT&T Park. I don't even know what park it is now. It's arguably the most beautiful ballpark in America today. I don't like the female PA address announcer. It's just my thing. Personally, it's the only negative input that I have about the whole park. Other than that, I really like the park. And nothing wrong with the lady there. I don't like her on the microphone. It's just my opinion. I'm entitled to that too, if you know what I mean. So then the Padres are hosting the very hot Houston Astros for a 3-game set. Then they get a little bit of break because the White Sox come to town. And the White Sox are just going to play spoiler. In fact, they just took 2 out of 3 from the Boston Red Sox, essentially. I wouldn't say eliminating them, but boy, making life very difficult on them. And then they have to travel to L.A. to play their rival, the Dodgers. So, hey, listen, the Padres have a very bumpy road here, and it's no cakewalk. Now, if you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks' remaining schedule, look, they're only half a game behind the Padres, sitting in the second wild card slot. They have a couple more games hosting the world champion Texas Rangers, who are playing like, well, not like the champions, let's put it that way. Then the Brewers come to town, so they got a 3-game set at home. At least they get the home field against the Brewers. So you got 2 small ball teams. That'll be a fun series to watch, folks. You want some good baseball? Watch over the weekend. You'll have the Diamondbacks hosting the Brewers. That'll be a lot of fun. And then Arizona has a little bit of easy street for the next few games, because then they have to travel to Denver to play the cellar-dwelling Colorado Rockies before hitting a 4-game set with the Brewers at Milwaukee. And that's at, I don't know. They don't call it, is it still Miller Park? I'm not really sure. I went to that dome one time. It was a really nice stadium. So that is a very, very nice stadium. People are so nice up there. The food's fantastic, too, by the way, folks. And then they close out with a couple of games at home against the Giants. So it looks like the Diamondbacks and the Padres probably will have a very similar challenge ahead of them, but it just seems like the Diamondbacks are playing less streaky ball and they're playing more fundamental ball. And the thing that I don't like about the Padres is that they have an issue with station-to-station ball, whereas the Diamondbacks play small ball. They'll move runners over. They'll advance runners from first to second, second to third. They'll squeeze play runners in. They hit sac flies. They do all the little things. They take the extra base. They'll stretch a double into a triple, and which gives the Diamondbacks a little bit more unpredictability when you're playing them. So as a former pitcher, I can tell you, teams like the Diamondbacks are very difficult to play against. Whereas, of course, teams that play station-to-station ball, here's a base hit, a base hit, a base hit, I get bases loaded, then you're looking for a grand slam. That's the kind of ball that the Padres play. They don't really get a lot of stolen bases. There's not a lot of sacrifices. It's go big or go home for those guys. And I honestly think that the Diamondbacks will finish ahead of them. And then, as we look at these standings, we say, well, all right, well, who else stands a chance? Nobody in the National League. Sorry, Cardinals, you're 6.5 back. I don't think, and that's of the last wild card spot. I don't think you're going to get anywhere at this point, because looking at the standings themselves, the Cardinals sit too far back. They're 10 back of the Brewers. The only way they're going to get in is by wild card. Same thing with the Cubs. The only way they're going to get in by wild card. The Mets and Braves. The Braves have some kind of a shot, even though they're sitting pretty far back. The Dodgers may be comfortable, but the D-backs can overtake them because they do have a favorable schedule versus the Dodgers. Now, taking a look at the American League, we look at this and say, all right, well, here you get a battle, an ongoing battle between the Yankees and Orioles. And now it's the Yankees up 1.5 games. And, in fact, they're 2 up in the loss column. Basically, the Orioles have 2 more losses. That is the big one. So, folks, when you're looking at these pennant races, you say, well, who's got more losses? Those are the teams that have a hell of a lot more to lose. And the Orioles have lost the last 3 games. Meanwhile, the Yankees, they're both playing 500 ball in their last 10, but the Yankees are still winning games big. That's what you got to look at. Meanwhile, the Red Sox are 10 back now, 4-6 in their last 10. I think they're done. Spoiler alert, and of course that would be the Tampa Bay Rays. That's just what they do at this point. And of course the cellar-dwelling Blue Jays. I mean, who would have thought this? You would have thought that the Red Sox would have been in last place and maybe the Blue Jays would be contending, but man, they just completely fell asleep. Meanwhile, over in the Central, it's the fighting Cleveland Guardians at 82-62. They actually have the best record in the American League right now by percentage points over the Orioles. I strike that. Let me see. Wait, 83? No, actually, they sit back 0.5 game behind the New York Yankees for the best record. Of course, that does mean something for sure. Those two saw each other in the postseason last year. Likely they're going to see each other this year again. But right on their heels is the Fighting Bobby Witt Jr.'s of the Kansas City Royals. And man, they are coming on. They're playing good ball. Despite what they've done their last 10, those guys sit 3.5 back, and they're right there. Now, the Twins have fallen off. They've lost their last 4. And you kind of wonder about the Twins. Did they have enough to stay in the race in the first place? Well, maybe on a wild card side. I don't know. But even the Detroit Tigers are 2 games over a very much improved Detroit Tigers. They've won the last couple of games. Meanwhile, the Twins are reeling, losing their last 4. Of course, the White Sox, never mind that. But over in the West, it was the Mariners up by a bunch. And now it's the Astros stretching it out. They're up 4.5 over the Mariners. And the Texas Rangers, 4 games under 500, winning the World Series last year. Well, guess what? They caught lightning in a bottle, and that was it. Sure, they've won their last couple of games. And even the Oakland A's, they are 20 games under. And the Oakland A's actually have been playing very good ball. You figured them to be in last, but no, it's the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Orange County, the Orange Curtain of Interstate 5, with a rock pile out in center field in last place, 24 games under 500. And that is a complete embarrassment for Artie Moreno. And I feel bad for Perry Benassi and their general manager because it just seems like he can't really get anything done. Nonetheless, that's what happens in Major League Baseball. And when we come back from break, we're going to take a look at the American League wild card race, because it is a wild race, that's for darn sure. There's a lot of teams on the mix there. So we're going to be back in a few minutes on the Sports Circus here from fabulous Las Vegas in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting. Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP Television Studios. That would be the AAMP.TV Studios. Yes, all ages media programming television. Think I can say that a few more times? All right, this segment brought to you in part by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are our podcast. No, we don't do a podcast. We just happen to have our recorded shows in their entirety on those podcast platforms for everybody to stream at their own will, on their own schedules. You can pick those up on Apple, Audible, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, whatever. Chances are we're there. Keep on searching. Google as well. Anyway, you can listen to all those shows there, and there's a couple thousand of them. If you're bored and you want to go on a binge for, a couple of months, just make sure you listen to thesportscircus.com, all of those episodes, because there's quite a few of them. In fact, we did our 2000th show last month, and it was a really fun show. We had on a family that is the only family that actually has a father and two sons all winning Super Bowls. That would be Craig Colquitt. He won a couple of Super Bowls with Terry Bradshaw and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dustin Colquitt, who won a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs. And, of course, Britton Colquitt, who won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Now, that's pretty good stuff. 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, 4 Super Bowls in the family. Hell, they have a part of a building named after them at the University of Tennessee. And they're all legends at the University of Tennessee. What a great situation. They're just wonderful people too, folks. Check them out. That would be Craig Colquitt, Dustin Colquitt, and Britton Colquitt. Just really, really nice people. Of course, another round of applause for them. Also, folks, make sure when you're at the sportscircus.com, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. My favorite one, of course, is Al's Number One Italian Beef. Now, if you don't know what that is, folks, Al's Number One Italian Beef, that is the Italian beef sandwich is a roast beef sandwich that is cut very, very, very thin, almost like a French dip kind of thing for those who've never had it. Marinated in its juices for hours and hours and hours, unlike that Philly cheesesteak fried sandwich with Cheese Whiz on it, which, of course, that one always deserves an astounding round of booze because it's not real cooking. It's just frying. You gotta fry up a sandwich, throw it on a piece of bread, throw it on a roll, and send you off on your way. But I have to tell you, check it out, folks. If you happen to be in Chicagoland, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy, 1079 West Taylor in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it there, go to alsbeef.com, alsbeef.com, and you can learn about the history. They've been around for nearly 100 years. And in fact, the family is the original founders and the creators of that glorious Italian beef sandwich. All right, enough of that. I'm getting hungry thinking about it. All right, back to baseball here. It's the American League. We have 3 leaders, which we had mentioned, being the Yankees, Guardians, and Astros in that particular order. And frankly, that home field advantage has not been decided yet. Now, the wild card teams, that picture is becoming a little bit more clear, at least with a couple of teams. So a couple of the teams, which would be the Orioles and the Yankees, are going to continue to flip-flop seemingly through the balance of the season. And I still think the Orioles are going to end up on top in there. It doesn't really matter. They're going to play each other, and they played each other well in either of their yards. Now, it happens that both of these two teams, and in fact, in their last 10 games, are both 5-5. But the Orioles have lost their last few games. They're kind of spiraling in the wrong direction, yet they still are 5.5 up on all the others that are outside the wild card picture looking in. So they stand in a home field advantage situation for a wild card matchup. Now, the Kansas City Royals, they also sit right behind the Cleveland Guardians. They're 3.5 back, but they're 2.5 up on all the other teams. Actually, they're 2.5 up on the third-placed Minnesota Twins, who stand in the third wild card position. So it's Orioles plus 5.5, Royals plus 2.5. These are games. And the Twins are the last team in at this point. However, despite the Red Sox poor playing, 4-6 in their last 10, they're only 3 games back of that third wild card spot or the Minnesota Twins. But at the same time, the Detroit Tigers sit 3 back of the Minnesota Twins. And oh, by the way, in case you thought Seattle was done, they're not done just yet because they sit 3 games back as well. And ironically, none of those 3 teams that are sitting on the outside looking in, they have been playing good at all. Because look, the Twins are 3-7. They've lost their last 4 games as the third wild card spot. And these last 3 teams, I'm not even going to go to the Rays or the Rangers or whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. I'm going to stick with these teams that are only 3 back. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But the reality is, they've all been playing very mediocre pedestrian baseball. In fact, none of the teams in the American League are playing really well right now. And the only team that's playing somewhat well, 7-3 in their last 10, is the Texas Rangers, and they're 6 back of the last wild card spot. So we're going to go ahead and discount them out just because we can. But those last 3, 4, 5, and 6 are 3 back, the Red Sox, Tigers, and Mariners. And they actually stand a shot. You think of the Minnesota schedule. Let's take a look at the Minnesota schedule. What do they have remaining? Minnesota, they host Anaheim, or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Orange County, all that, for a couple more. But then the Reds come to town. So those are very winnable games. The Reds come to town for 3. The Angels are there for 2. And then the Twins have to hit the road. They have 4 at Cleveland. And then they have 3 at Boston. And then their final game is at home against Florida. But they've got 7 tough games in a row on the road. So we go back to the standings here. And well, guess what? Boston has to play Minnesota. And you think about the head-to-head thing. Well, since the Red Sox are 3 back of Minnesota, they could pick up those 3 games at home against Minnesota. So Minnesota, although you're up 3 games, don't get too happy with yourself over there because crazier things than happen. Now, we look at what Boston's remaining schedule is. That's no cakewalk. They have Baltimore at home for 2 more. Then they're at Yankee Stadium for a 4-game set. That is a big pill right there. And then they travel down to spoiler Tampa, because Tampa's awful good. And Tampa's not out of it yet. They're 5 back as well of that last spot. So the Red Sox also have to travel to Tampa. So they've got 1, 2, 3, they've got 7 games on the road between rival Yankees and Rays. And then, oh, by the way, they're hosting the Minnesota Twins, which I mentioned, and their final game is against a very interesting rival, the Toronto Blue Jays. So listen, Boston, although they're not necessarily out of it, you ask yourself, how many of those games can they win? And how about the Mariners? The Mariners, they sit 3 back as well of the Minnesota Twins. Let's take a look at what they've got left. They have the Padres at home for a couple, and then the Rangers come in for a 4-game set, very winnable games with a good pitching staff. And then they host the Yankees for 3. Again, with a very good pitching staff. The Yankees aren't really good in the pitching category. And then they travel to Texas for 3 more. But then it's tough because they have to travel to Houston to close out the season. But I would say that the Mariners actually stand in a better position, as I see it, than the other clubs. And there's only one more remaining club that's in the mix that's also 3 games back, and that's the Detroit Tigers. Now, the Tigers probably have a difficult schedule like the Red Sox, but these are some winnable games here. They got 3 at home against the Rockies. Very winnable games. The Orioles have been spiraling, so the Orioles travel to Detroit for 3 more. Then the Tigers have to hit the road to Kansas City, which is a team they're trying to catch. So, and they're right behind them, technically, in percentage points. So the Tigers travel to Kansas City for 3, but then they have to travel to Baltimore and play the Orioles at Camden Yards for 3. And then they've got the pesky Rays to close out. So taking a closer look again at these Major League standing wild card races, I would say that the Twins could hold on to their spot. I really think that you're going to see 3 teams from the American League Central in the playoffs. And that would be the Twins wild card, Royals wild card, and then the Cleveland Guardians. I think that's how it's going to play itself out. And the only team that could really catch them schedule-wise would probably be Seattle. Too big of a road for Boston. And let's face it, if in a crazy world, if the Tigers ended up slipping in there, you'd still see 3 American League Central teams in there. But the only team that I really see that has a real shot right now would be the Seattle Mariners, because even looking at the Rays, now the Rays, they sit 5 back, and that 5 back, that's a big pill, because you've got to leapfrog other teams. And so they've got to travel to Philadelphia. They got a couple more there. Then they have to travel to Cleveland for 4. Then they host the Red Sox for 3, host the pesky Blue Jays for 3, and then they travel to Detroit for a final game. I don't know. I think that's too big of a pill right there. 3 teams from the American League Central, and you very well could see 3 teams from the National League West in the playoffs as well. And we think about, you got great players here, you got great players there. And the one thing that we hadn't spent any time on, and we're not going to really, is going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates. And it's not because the Pirates are a great team now, they're 8 games under, but what they have, in my opinion, is the likely Rookie of the Year, despite the odds. And we're going to go over the odds when we come back here on our final segment on the Sports Circus. Hope you're having fun. We're having lots of fun over here. Back in a few.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV television studios. That's AAMP Television. Folks, make sure, again, you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, lots of guests coming up. We haven't posted. We have some interesting press coming out, and it's coming out. And just like we've had in the last month or so, we've had a couple of very big announcements. More news coming out for the Sports Circus, so make sure you stay tuned. And be sure to follow us on social media as well. On Facebook, you can follow us at Sports Circus. In fact, you can check it out at Sports Circus FB for Facebook. Sports Circus FB. On X, we are at the Sports Circus. And of course, on Instagram, we are TSC Show. And by the way, folks, our friends over on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a big thank you for them tuning in to the show, as well as all of our affiliates across the country on radio and television. You know who you are, and I much appreciate that. We've been doing this for a long time, and lots of our listeners participate. They send us messages, and in fact, if you want, you can call us up, 702-799-9935. Give us a call, 702-799-9935. Maybe you want to talk about something in particular, 702-799-9935. And just watch your language because, of course, we can't get sent to the principal's office, if you know what I mean. So don't say the bad words. No. Anyway, back to baseball. And the reason I'm going to do this is a lot of people have been talking to me about this Rookie of the Year thing. First things first, the Pittsburgh Pirates have arguably the best pitcher to come out into Major League Baseball in a very, very, very long time. And this guy, his name is Paul Skeens. He's from Fullerton, California. And Paul Skeens is one of those guys. He's a generational pitcher. Now, we saw that with Greg Maddux when he came up. I believe it was 1987. And the Chicago Cubs had him. Of course, they squandered that away. A big surprise there. Now, Skeens is so good. Remember, this is the same guy that started the National League as the number one pick. He started the National League as a rookie in the All-Star game. This guy is good, and I mean good. In fact, so good, he set a Pirates rookie record for strikeouts as a first-year pitcher. And this guy, man, he's really done it, according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com. In the home dugout at PNC Park, after Paul Skeens' evening was done, Bailey Falter asked the rookie how many strikeouts he had on the evening. Skeens claimed to forgot, so he started to add up the tally. And there's a particular strikeout counter. It's called Kennametal, the Kennametal strikeout counter. Of course, mouthing to himself, right? 7, 8, 9, he says. Skeens was seen saying on the Sportsnet Pittsburgh broadcast before cracking a smile. And let's face it, folks, as a pitcher, the one thing that you need to do is you need to really keep your head screwed on right, because any little thing can really set you a little bit different, set you sideways, and it's not a good thing. So, of course, it was a 9 strikeout night, but the first one was the one that put him in the record books, passing Cy Blanton for the most strikeouts by a rookie in franchise history. That's right. In fact, that final punch-out was number 151 on the year for Paul Skeens, who tossed 6 innings of one-run ball to lead the Pirates to yet another 3-2 win over the Marlins. In fact, let's see, we may have a soundbite here. This is kind of good stuff. And I don't know where it's going to go, folks. And this is according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com. So you're just going to have to bear with us. And let's see if we can actually get these sound bites.
He might give up a run here. Base hit right field. And a bobble in right. And that will allow Sanchez to score easily. De La Cruz.
That made it a 3-2 game.
Kind of popped out of his hand like a wet bar of soap. And that will...
I'm going to go back to the beginning here, and so here we go. Here's what the Paul Skeens highlights. It's according to compliments and courtesy of MajorLeagueBaseball.com.
Edwards with 25 steals, caught twice. There it is. The new single-season record. And they'll throw that ball out of play and authenticate it.
Yeah, nothing fancy here, just the old-fashioned fastball.
Lefty's hitting just .224 against Bielsa.
That put him ahead. We have to say it.
And that is hammered to center field. Not going to sneak that fastball by him. Off the batter's eye backdrop. O'Neill Cruz, a mammoth home run, his 19th, and it's 1-0 in the first.
It's amazing. It's been a while for O'Neill Cruz.
Absolutely killed. O'Neill Cruz is a lot like Ellie De La Cruz in size and speed.
Bat, everybody in the ballpark
what a
knew.
hell of a player. I mean, it's just one of those, when you look at it, you say, wow, this guy, not only he hits mammoth home runs, he can steal bases, he's got a great arm, but he did make a lot of errors, just like Ellie De La Cruz for the Cincinnati Reds. However, Ellie is a second-year player now, and O'Neill Cruz, technically, I guess he's still considered a rookie. Maybe not, but this guy is good. The Pirates have a good long team, or good young team, that is. And, back to this Paul Skeens thing, I want to get to, I'm actually getting somewhere with this, so just bear with me here. So, according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com, once again, few in baseball history can match the number of strikeouts through their first 20 games, with the only other pitcher since 1901 being Kerry Wood, 179 in 1998, Hideo Nomo, 175 in 1995, Dwight Gooden, good old Doc Gooden, 162 in 1984, and Mark Pryor, 154 strikeouts in 2002 and 2003. And so when you look at the 151 by Skeens, well, guess what? He's already passed the others. And manager Derek Shelton said, quote, "I can't think of anyone I've seen that's been that strikeout heavy, especially early in their career. And I've watched guys that have done it, that have been elite pitchers throughout their careers, but I don't know that I remember anyone being a rookie that has been like that." Close quote. Now, of course, the thing about it is if you ask Paul Skeens about the history he's making, it's not really on his radar. So he says, quote, "It's a game, and I think the biggest thing is focusing on being in the moment and staying present. All of the other stuff is cool, but I think that's a product of being in the moment and staying present over the course of the season, just executing individual pitches, and then kind of shows up when you start tallying stuff up," close quote. So, I mean, look, this guy has really done special things here. Of course, it has been tallied up very nicely for Paul Skeens, who is not only in the mix for the Rookie of the Year, but is having one of the greatest rookie seasons ever as a Pirates pitcher. And here's how he compares to the other Pirates rookies in the modern era since 1900. He sits first in strikeouts. He sits third in earned run average with a minimum of 100 innings. His ERA, look, folks, this guy has 151 strikeouts. He's got a sparkling ERA of 2.10. That's crazy. And of course, for those who prefer ERA plus, which weighs a player's earned run average compares to how the rest of the league performed that year, well, let's face it. Witt with a 2.41 ERA plus, Adams is second with a 2.32 ERA plus, and Skeens was 1.97 entering the night. Why does it matter? Because the earned run average leaders in Pirates history in the modern era, Babe Adams, 1.11 ERA in 1909, Red Witt, 1.61 in 1958, and Paul Skeens, 2.10 with a juiced ball in 2024. So look, this guy is legit. Walks and hits per innings, and he sits second on that list. Win percentage, he sits second on that list, and on we go. Even wins above replacement. 5 is his. And that's entering the game, so actually it's gone up. Look, this guy is legit. You could chop it up however you want, and you say, well, hey, what about this Rookie of the Year race? You know, people talking about, well, you know, let's go ahead and let's give the National League Rookie of the Year to Jackson Merrill because he's a streaky hitter. And so Jackson Merrill right now is the leader in the odds at minus 600 at a couple of the venues, minus 1,000, another one. Paul Skeens, you're getting a nice price at plus 400, plus 375, plus 380, plus 490. Paul Skeens was the leader in this until Jackson Merrill got hot. But he's playing very good ball for the Padres. But Skeens is dominating, and he owns the statistical race. No question. Now, over in the American League, that's it for Paul Skeens. We're going to have to get through this stuff. Over in the American League, you've got a little bit of different race. And so the American League stacks up with Colton Cowser just edging out. And Colton Cowser was a runaway for a while there. Now, Austin Wells has really come on. Austin Wells is a minus 105. Colton Cowser is a 105, minus 105. In fact, Austin Wells is another place, is minus 115 to Colton Cowser. Cowser is a plus 110. So you never know what's going to happen there. Lewis Gill is the next nearest one. Pitcher for the Yankees. He's way down the trough. And so it looks to me like Austin Wells is making a late charge, and he may end up winning this one. But I really believe that Paul Skeens will win the National League. So let's take a look at that Cy Young race. In the American League, it's Tariq Skubal by a landslide over everybody else. Emmanuel Clase in division rival, that would be the Cleveland Guardians. Of course, I always want to call them the Indians. Tariq Skubal's a huge favorite, and then Emmanuel Clase with his 42, 43 saves. He is coming in at a distant second at plus 2,000 at the lowest. And so in the National League, we think about that Cy Young race. Chris Sale right now is dominating the world, and he has completely revived himself. Chris Sale, of course, for the Atlanta Braves. I always give him a round of applause. Right now, he's about a minus 3,000. In fact, that's at Caesars Palace. At one of the other casinos, they have him at minus 2,500, etc. and so forth. Zach Wheeler, a very good one for the Phillies, is at plus 1,000 also at Caesars Palace. So a lot of breathing room for Chris Sale. Looks like Chris Sale is that guy. But in the race, in the conversation, is rookie Paul Skeens. That's right. So not only is he in the running for Rookie of the Year, but also for the Cy Young Award. That's crazy. This guy statistically should win the Rookie of the Year, but it's nice to see the rookie up there. And man, this guy is dealing. He gets up there, he'll give up a run or two, and that's it. But everything else, forget it. Tyler Glasnow from the Dodgers is a plus 10,000. Paul Skeens is actually 3 times more a favorite over him. Just to give you a point of reference, he's 5 times a favorite over Blake Snell. 5 times a favorite over Ranger Suarez. 6 to 7 times a favorite over Sean Manaea, who's really been pitching his butt off. The point is, Skeens is legit, and he is the real deal. Folks, if you want to see a good pitcher that could pitch in just about any era, I'm telling you, watch this kid, Paul Skeens. If you're a baseball card collector, go get as many of his rookie cards as you possibly can. He is a generational pitcher in the same way that Greg Maddux was, and Greg Maddux was an absolute master and a professor on that hill. Paul Skeens is following in his footsteps. That's going to be it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in about 23 hours on your favorite station right here. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.